My name is Julia Serkia. I'm the UF IFAS Extension intern at Hillsborough County. Today I have Janelle Bosquez. He's the agricultural agent at Hardy County, and he's here to talk to us today about beekeeping. Welcome, Janelle.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm here by the bees, so we're ready. We're ready for this.
Okay, so if someone was interested in getting started in beekeeping, what should their first steps be?
Okay, so the first thing that I would do is that I would at least read a book on it, get into a course on, what essential things you need to know, and be cognizant of the fact that you may have issues because you're dealing with an animal, okay, with a unit, which is complicated. And I've been doing this for over 3 years, and I still have bees that leave me. So that's how it is. So just study up on it before you buy anything.
Okay, so how do they go and buy their equipment? What type of bees do they buy? What are the essential things that you need to get started?
So aside from education, I would go buy and get a kit. The recommendation is to start with 2 hives, so that is, there's going to be an issue regardless when you're starting up. Even professionals have issues. So a kit, a basic beekeeping kit is going to have a bee veil, which I do have some samples for you to look at. This is just a basic veil that you can buy from a catalog just to protect your head. I have a bee suit on because I got a little bit more fancy than the usual person, which protects also my arms and my face. Okay, so I have my veil here. The other thing that you're gonna need to protect yourself is going to be gloves. I don't use gloves because I like to handle things, to handle my frames with my bare hands. Today is very overcast, and they may be temperamental. And just realize that you have to look at the weather conditions before you go into a hive. Protecting yourself is number 1. Protecting the bees is going to be number 2, I guess. For that, if we're going into a hive, we're going to have a smoker. So we have a smoker here. This is the very basic smoker. Smoke calms the bees down. It interrupts the fight reflex on the bees. It interrupts their communication, so they go into hiding, and that way they don't sting you. All of them, they just go into hiding. So smoker is very important with a good lighter. And the other thing that you're going to need is going to be a hive tool to separate the combs and to open up the hive, the supers, where you have the different frames, and then a brush to brush the bees and inspect the comb, to look for eggs, to look for, if you find brood and you find egg, that means that your queen is doing okay. Anyway, so those are the basic things that you're going to need. Buying the bees, there's 2 sources that you can get bees from. One is wild hives or splits or swarms. This is the time of the year where they're swarming, so the colony grows too big for their commendations. So what they do is that they create another queen and they split. Okay, so that's their mode of reproduction. So swarms is a way to buy them. You can buy nukes, which is a 5-frame package with a laying queen. I have 2 of them. Those are my sources for the bees right now. I have also mail order bees. Okay, it's like a mail order bride, but mail order bees that have their queen. This is the package where they come from. They are overnighted to you. This this jar is full of honey or sugar water, sorry, and that's their source of nourishment for the trip. There's also a trap for the queen with a couple of worker bees inside. So the worker bees work their way out eventually, and that's the way that the queen starts laying in the comb. Or you can just you know, liberate her yourself. Anyway, so 3 pounds of bees are going to be about $130, but you can buy 5 frames with a nook, which is that smaller hive, for about the same price if you know where to find. And we can contact our extension office or local beekeeping association, and they can help us with that. You can also buy queens individually, and that's pretty awesome that you can do that. If your queen is not laying, then you can put another queen in there, and she's gonna lay, you know, help you perpetuate that colony. Anyway, so that's basically answering the question. That's the whole video itself.
Yeah, it's a lot to cover. There's a lot to know about beekeeping before you get started.
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of bees do beekeepers keep?
Here we have the preferred one in Florida because the weather is going to be the Italian. They're going to be more docile than the other breeds. It's going to cope better with the environment. But there's 7 different types of honeybees or breeds of honeybees, lines, if you were to call that. One of them is the Africanized bee, which in Florida, they are hybridized with the regular European bee. So, you know, they're more aggressive, but they produce more honey, and they cope better with the environment. What I've always worked with are going to be Italian bees, and also last 2 years ago I had a Russian hive that, you know, it was awesome. Anyway, so
How are the bees chosen for their jobs?
let me start my fire, okay?
Okay.
So the bees are the worker bees are their job is chosen based on their age, okay? When you have female worker bees that emerge from their comb, their individual cell, they have their first job is housekeeping. So they feed their sisters and brothers. They also you know, clean out the dead bees. They help other bees around, doing housekeeping work, expelling unwanted visitors from there. As they mature, they then have the guardian job, which they fly around the hive, keeping everybody safe, and those are the ones that sting you. After that, what they do in terms of job is foraging. That's the last stage of their life. So foraging, so it goes from worker bee in maintenance to guardian, and then to forager. And then they, you know, basically that's the end of their lifespan at about 60 days.
Okay, and what do the male bees do in the hive?
They don't do anything. They just eat. Drones are there for procreation with other hives. With a queen, one queen is going to mate with about 12 of them, and it's going to be one event where she mates in flight, and from there she has all the sperm that it needs for laying for the rest of her life. So she stores that sperm. Ouch, this is hot. And then she lays about 2,000 eggs a day. So that's
Wow.
a hard worker. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot. How is the queen chosen and what is her role?
So her role again is to lay eggs. She's got all the genetics of a regular worker bee, but she's fed differently. So when a hive is got a weak queen or it's going queenless, then the worker bees feed a specific cell differently and make a different type of cell. And from there, because of that feeding behavior, that different feeding, you have a queen that develops. So any egg that is female will develop into a queen. An unfertilized egg, which the female can select to, if she's gonna do a fertilized or unfertilized egg laying, that's where the drones come from. The fertilized eggs are the females, worker bees.
Okay. So how do bees set up their hives?
Okay. In terms of the comb.
Yeah, in terms of the comb and how the pattern that they set up, like their eggs and then their food and.
So in a frame, let me look for a frame. Good morning. So this is just a shallow frame. We have deep frames and we have shallow frames. In the center of the frame, you're gonna have the eggs being laid, and in the corners you're gonna have honey, and then you're gonna have pollen storage areas. So she's gonna start laying in circles, I guess, just in the center, and that's pretty awesome. So you want to go inside?
Sure.
Okay. Let me suit up. Maybe not get stung today. We'll see.
So are bees aggressive or is that just a myth?
It depends. There's different breeds that are more aggressive than others. And you're gonna see. We'll find out if they're aggressive or not. So we have our hives. We have 2 hives today, and you see them just doing their bee thing, just flying around. And you never approach them from the front. You go from the back, I guess. Okay, that look okay to you?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. So we were in this one last week, and because of the weather, I don't want to be too blunt with them today. All righty. So we're in. Come on, babies. So they are more temperamental today just because of the weather. That's why I'm extra smoking them.
So when it's overcast and rainy, they tend to be a little more temperamental. Okay.
Yeah, more protective. And here's my frames with honey. Okay. You can see them. but they're
The,
not approaching.
the frames have a specific spacing in between them, right?
Yes. So one box is gonna have 10 frames. If you don't have 10 frames, then you're gonna have thicker combs than what you want, and they're gonna start doing funky things to them. All right, let me see if I can go into the deep box. This is where you're gonna find most of the brood. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. It's really cool.
All righty. So this is a deep frame. And every colony will have about 60,000 bees.
Wow.
All righty. So you can see that there's some white spots in there, and there's some cap brood. This is better. This is a better side. Here on the top, I don't know if you can see some white little things inside the cells that are not capped. Those are baby bees. Okay, and you can see the worker bees that are feeding them. Okay.
So, have they started to make honey?
Yes. So on the ends they have honey storages. This one is full of eggs on the ends. If you go to the top box, the top frames, or the side, you're gonna see more of the honey storage. This one is gonna have a lot of honey. Let me see if I can show you without getting stung. Come on, baby. Whoops.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see the honey there in the corner.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, yeah, you can see it definitely in that corner.
Okay.
So, what is honey and why do bees make it?
Honey is basically bee vomit. Um, so what they do is that um, they take the nectar from the flowers, and from that nectar, um, the sugar and the enzymes in their belly, uh, they start to decompose the nectar and concentrate the nectar Um, anyway, so when the bee reaches the hive, it basically passes that vomit or vomits that bee that nectar, sorry, from one bee to the other. Okay, so as more enzymes are enzymes are working on that liquid, the bee or the honey, it's I guess transformed into more of a honey instead of nectar. I got a bee in my phone.
Oh.
Anyway, so so from one bee to the other, then the property of that nectar is changed, and then you find yourself with honey at the end of it. When it's placed on the cell, the the bees start fanning the nectar and dehydrating it, so that way you get honey eventually. Uh, so did that answer that question?
Yes.
So
So,
from nectar, it goes from bee to bee. So the bee consumes it, then vomits it to the next bee. Then that bee, slowly that nectar is transformed, and then you end up with something that it doesn't, that is not nectar anymore, and it gets stored and fanned, and that's how it gets dehydrated, and it changes its viscosity, and then you end up with honey.
okay. And so the bees use that to have a food source in the winter, right?
Yeah. Yes.
How much honey does a single bee produce as opposed to how much honey a whole hive could produce?
I have no idea. Uh, but you have to look at the biology of a beehive. It's not one animal. It's a colony that behaves as one unit. So it's a super animal, or it's a super unit of animals. They're social. They need each other. There's social bees and there's solitary bees. All of them produce honey or some sort of or they harvest nectar to maintain, even wasps do it, to maintain their young, or to get calories from. Um,
Okay. So what are some common myths about bees?
well, the common myth that gets old pretty quickly is the we need to save the bees, because if we don't save the bees, then we're gonna grow out of we're gonna run out of food. That's a myth. Bees help, like many other insects and other animals. They help pollinate, but they're not the exclusive pollinator. Um, I was talking the other day with somebody about that. Before the Europeans arrived in the Americas, there were no honeybees here, but there were still food growing, and there were still pollinators. So we tend to glorify bees. They are important, but they only are used in less than 10% of what we eat to pollinate, and they're useful for farmers. We want to save them all because they help us pollinate. They help us with maintaining an ecosystem. But like right now, I see a bunch of ground bees running around here, but we don't look at those. We look at the majestic honeybee because it's hairy and it's got big eyes and it looks like a teddy bear. They are not going extinct. We're on a 20-year high in terms of honeybee population in the world. We're not. The other thing that we hear a lot is that cell phone radiation interrupts their signaling and they get lost. That's not true. Roundup is not killing bees either, or glyphosate. There's 1 or 2 different studies looking at that as a culprit, but the way that they are applying that herbicide to the bee, it's totally unnatural, or it's unrealistic in the natural way, the way that we use pesticides. Same thing with neonics, which is another chemical that's been blamed with bee death. It's an insecticide, yes, and we have to use it responsibly, but it is not the culprit for bee decline. The main culprit for bee decline, which is real, is the varroa mite, which is a tiny mite that hitchhikes on the backs of the bees. And it goes into the cells, the uncapped cells. You saw the baby bees in the uncapped cells. It goes in there and it feeds off of their body. When the baby bees they turn into adult bees, they have distorted wings. Varroa also carries viruses, and it is a concern. But we have seen that bees and beekeepers are adapting to these conditions, and they're selecting stronger hives. So hopefully that's not going to be a problem, forever, or a major problem forever.
Right. So what can the average person do to help beekeepers?
Well, there is, seek local, Florida honey. For starters, buy. There's also wax that you can buy, and lotions that you can purchase from local beekeepers. That would be the best way. If you see a hive that it's in your property and it's obstructing you or posing threat, bee removal services are the best way that we can get rid of them. Some beekeepers make a living of removing bees, developing them into nooks, and then reselling them. So that's another way that we can help our local beekeeper. And the other thing that we can do is that we have to be mindful in the way that we use insecticides around bees. In our yards, it's one thing. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is never apply insecticides during the daytime. Do it early in the morning before the bees are there, or late in the evening when they have left. That way we're not exposing the bees to insecticide, and that way we're supporting indirectly that beekeeper.
Okay, and what resources can people go to find out more information about bees?
So we have IFAS Extension has a bee specialist. We have a bee laboratory in Gainesville, bee lab. That would be a good source for local information. I would contact my extension agent first, ask questions, and if they don't know an answer, they will then contact a specialist or somebody at the bee lab that can help, or an experienced beekeeper that can be a source of information as well. So contact your extension office. If you have a bee problem, we can get you a list of people that can do bee removal. If you want to start with the project, we can, if you have youth in your house that are interested in bees, we can work on that as well, get you started with the right information.
Okay, great. Thank you so much interviewing today with me, Janelle.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a good host.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you later.